Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today for another episode with my show, William Wallace for America. Today is going to be one of the most unique videos I've done because I'm actually interviewing John Illg, state representative here in River Ridge, Harahan, and parts of Metairie that I actually ran against for state representative. And you beat me.
Good to see you.
And good to shake hands with you, John. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for doing this. I know we've spoken about doing this for a while, and I figured we'd go ahead and get it in before session started.
Well, we're going to give everybody a lot of information in this video about things that we're going to see in session, some bills you're getting ready to do, and some good nuggets of information that I think you're going to want to see. And we'll talk more about that. But before we start too much, I wanted to wanted you to say the saying you told me when you beat me in the race. How do you put that?
I said, I coach young kids, and I said when you play a game, sometimes you play as hard as you can, and you come up short. And you can still be friends with those people. You shake hands and you wish them the best, and you move on and you learn from that experience. I learned from that experience from 12 years ago because I ran against a guy that had this seat. I ran against Senator Talbot, but I ran against Kirk, and 12 years later I ended up getting a seat. To me, I think it just wasn't the right time. When I lost, I had a young son that was 8 years old. And by me losing, I got the benefit by coaching him and many other kids through the years. So I feel like I was very lucky, and I feel like in God's eyes, it wasn't my time to win. And I ran this time, and I was fortunate enough to win. And I truly love the position I'm in. I like being able to help people, especially through this year with COVID, because you've become such a big part. My office has become such a big part of helping people that have lost their jobs or have had trouble with business, or we've helped with payroll protection. We've been able to be an information source for so many people and be involved. And people say, do you like being involved through this year because it wasn't a normal year? Well, I don't know any different, and neither do any of my colleagues. We don't know any different.
Because you've been here working the whole time.
We've been in 1 year. Yeah. This is our first year. We were in 1 week, and we walked into COVID. And we've been dealing with it ever since. So it's a very unifying, to me it was more of a unifying experience as a freshman class, and we became closer together because we were limited on where we could go. So we hung out with each other. So we became more of a family, and I really think the first year was very important for me and all our growth as legislators. As I don't look at us as freshmen anymore after 1 year, because you were basically thrown into the deep end at the beginning, and you found out that there's some real big stars in the freshman class around the state that I've become friends with on both sides of the aisle. And there's not as much division in this state as people like to think and promote.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the camaraderie that you guys have up there, regardless of party or anything.
And social issues, we're a lot closer than everybody thinks. I know people want to say we're divided amongst party lines, and I just don't see that. I've been around these people, I've gotten to talk to them. I try and associate with a different group of people almost on a nightly basis to try and get to know all my fellow legislators. I'd say I've done a pretty good job of that in the first year. I am lucky because I sit in the back of the chamber where everybody leaves. So
you get to watch everybody out in front of you.
Well, I get to see, it's basically like being in a press box and seeing the game played out in front of you. So you get to see what's going on and what's going on. You can see different things happening on the floor where different groups are getting together on different bills, and most of the time they leave out the Capitol by the gate I sit by. So I'm like the gatekeeper. I'm almost, somebody said, well, you're like the house bouncer. You sit at the back gate and work the gate. And I said, well, at first I didn't like it because I got patted on the head by Francis Thompson every day like I was his golden retriever. So I sat there and I went, this might be a little tough during COVID being touched, but everybody pat you on the back, pat you on the head as you come by you. But it gave me the opportunity to meet so many different people. May it be them leaving or going to get a cup of coffee. They walk by you out through the back gate, and I got to sit there and I got to experience that. I sit by myself because I'm one of the few. Most people have seatmates up in Baton Rouge, and I was in the back corner. There's only 4 desks at a single desk. They're in each corner, each of the 4 corners. I'm one of the desks in the 4 corners. So I get to sit at one of them, and Cedric Glover's at the other back corner, and you got I think Stuart Bishop and Lance Harris are up in the other corners. But I get to sit in a spot that I get access to a lot of these people as they enter each day, and I like that position. I like getting to know my other fellow legislators, and it's been a true blessing. I was very nervous being by that I was going to be by myself, but I got to meet the people around me, and the way I look at it is they're all my seatmates around me.
And what's interesting is when you sit in the balcony up there, and watch, well, of course, not the legislators, but the visitors, you get to watch all the different dynamics, like you're saying. You can watch people leaving out your way, and then there's you can tell which legislators like it to be up front because they're working that front rail. They're always working that.
I'm working the back rail.
Yeah.
They tell me, it'll be a different experience once the lobbyists are let back in because they're at the back rail and it's like being at a game and they're all yelling at you.
Yeah.
They're on top of you. I said, that's what headphones are for.
Well, what's coming up in this next session, which starts in April, you said?
April 12th, we'll go back in. And in fact, I'm on appropriations. I'm on 3 committees. I'm on appropriations, insurance, and retirement. I'm also on, because I'm on appropriations, I'm on joint legislative committee on the budget, which we meet once a month throughout the year. And once we're in session, we won't meet, but we meet once a month. We meet as a group, and we discuss the budget and take care of any budget adjustments that you may have, things that come up throughout the year, dealing with different contracts, dealing with different things that happen in the state throughout the year. So it's a joint committee. We meet with the Senate and the House. It's usually the 3rd Friday of the month. So we go up to Baton Rouge, and if you see anything that comes up that it may need to be addressed, it's open to the public, and public can come up there and comment on those issues. We still have COVID protocols in place where you sit with a mask and you have to address, you get to do it in the entire chamber because we have that meeting in the chamber. We used to have that meeting in Committee Room 5, and you've got 40 people for 25 seats.
Wow, yeah.
So it's basically musical chairs, and get there early to save yourself a seat, or you'll be sitting on the rail behind them in a chair with a binder trying to keep up.
Yeah, trying to keep up.
It is so much. There's one thing COVID made better is that we now meet in the chamber so we can spread out, and if you're a House member, you sit at your desk. Right. And the Senate comes and fills in accordingly.
It's funny you say open that laptop and keep up, because one thing I like to point out to everybody, is that you can watch everything from your home. So people can actually be involved in the legislative process simply by turning on their computer at home and watch. You can watch all these committee meetings, from your laptop or your computer, and be able to have some say.
That is true. Yeah. So you better realize that you could always be on an open mic. You could always be on if you comment in committee, you hear what's going on behind the scenes. They are working that room. So if you make a comment, you got to realize that it's being broadcast to everyone. And I've had constituents call me on certain issues. I've had text in the middle of a committee meeting because they're watching it and say, I don't like what they're saying, and can you ask this question? Or I'm concerned about what was just said, because not everybody this year, a lot of times when you come up to the legislature, you can go there and put in a red card if you're against it, a green card if you're for, or if you want information only, or just to make a comment, you put in a white card. And that's all read into the public record. But you have the option to say, I oppose it, but I don't want to speak, or I'm for it and I do want to speak, or I'm against it and I want to speak. Right. You have the right to have your voice heard in committee. And what we do in committee is we vet these bills and see if they're worthy enough to make it out of committee and make it onto the House floor.
And also work it,
tweak it, amend it.
That's the good thing about having the red card or the green card. People can
say, I like it, but I like most of your bill, but I don't like the language here. And so they change little bits of language from shall or may, from may to shall, where it's the legalese that you work. But you've got a good staff that works with you to tweak those bills, and we've got a good legislative office that works with you to tweak these bills and get them in the proper manner to be passed by the legislature. And once you pass it out of the House, you then have to go to the Senate side and basically do it all over again.
Exactly.
And then any amendments they may put on it may come back. So you may have a great bill when it comes out the House, it comes back, you may go, it's not even the same bill
diluted
anymore.
Or
it gets diluted, it gets changed, it's not the same bill.
And I've seen them change things so quickly where, they'll change it right there and they'll print it out right there.
It happens very quickly, and sometimes we didn't have it too much happen where somebody slipped something in, but you've got to be wary of the amendments. It's hard to keep track of everything. You try and keep track. We had a couple of sessions, a couple of days in the chamber where it was like the speed round in voting. We had to take up so many bills because we were limited in time. We didn't expand. We came back for a special session, but in the original session, we basically took a month off. So when we came back, you were trying to catch up with all the issues that you had originally. So we had one day, I want to say it was 130 bills we were going through. So it's hard to sit through a day where you're there all day.
And I've watched these things go through.
It's all day. It's a long day. They have lunch brought in, and you don't take a break. You bring your lunch to your desk, and you sit down, and you keep moving. So you walk out of the room, you say it could be easy to miss a vote. Why'd that guy miss that vote? He might have went to the bathroom.
Exactly.
He might have got a cup of coffee. He might be on the Senate side promoting another one of his bills because they're operating at the same time. So
they don't stop.
I've got a bill I'm handling. We're still voting on the floor. The Senate's, I may be in committee on the Senate side hearing a bill. They may be hearing my bill that I'm having on the Senate side. So I may leave the room for an hour
for a committee meeting.
For a committee meeting on the other side, and I miss a vote. So sometimes you got to be leery when they say he missed 1,000 votes or he missed 500. Well, he may be on the other side carrying a lot of bills. And on a day like that, you miss half a day. You're out sick. You missed 130 votes.
Wow.
It's one day.
In just one day.
You went out sick that day. You got COVID. You can't make it. If somebody then
don't matter.
Says, he missed 130
the next
votes in one
election
day.
cycle, somebody
says he missed 130 votes. Well, the guy had COVID.
Yeah.
So now you got to try and explain that. But it's stuff you learn by being up there.
So what's coming up in this next session? What are they handling? What's the big thing?
The big thing right now is fiscal issues in the state. Is where we are at in the budget. Our budget's going to be over $40 billion next year, which is increased.
Now, what was it last year?
It was 32, I think.
So another $8 billion?
$8 billion. A lot of it's federal money that has come in through COVID relief. A lot of it's been money, but it's a lot of money that we're creating government. I'm leery of creating government for something that's one-time money and not sustainable.
So the $8 billion basically is to expand government.
It's one-time money. It's a lot of money that's coming from the federal government. It may be to help schools. It may be Main Street, all money that's been brought in that we've doled out. But this year, I was shocked. I knew it was going to go up a little bit. When they told us the projected budget is over $40 billion, I'm scared. I'm nervous because once you grow it, it's the same thing we did after Katrina. We grew government and we never shrunk it back down again. So how do you pay for it? How do you continue
more
to
taxes,
pay for it?
more taxes?
And that's what we're all against. Nobody wants to pay more taxes.
Bob has a truck with his department now. And
we've increased it. We added 10 positions to his department, and how do we rein it back in? And that's a big problem. Is a lot of people look at disasters as an opportunity to grow government, and I'm very wary. I know we have to take care of certain governmental issues, but there's certain things that we need to have sunset in it and make sure they don't stick around.
So this is no different than what they're doing on a federal level.
It's the same thing they're doing on the federal level. We're actually taking that money, and we've had some increases in revenue. It hasn't been as bad in say Jefferson Parish as it has been in other parts around the state, because we've tried to mitigate the economic damage in Jefferson Parish. Jefferson Parish is, through COVID and through all this, has pretty much been more open than some of the other states. Some of our businesses have been open, have been allowed to be open. Yeah, of course, your movie theaters aren't open. I know golf courses have had a great, done very well because it's open air and it's gave somebody something to do. I've had friends pick up golf clubs that haven't played golf in decades because it was something that was open and something that we were able to do. Maybe you like going to the movies, but you couldn't go to the movies. And you wanted to get outdoors and do other things. I mean, being outdoors, we're lucky that our weather is a warmer climate where people can get outside and can do other things. So I'm excited that it looks like we're starting to turn the corner.
So where did government grow? Where did government grow?
Well, the Workforce Commission's grown, and because you've got so many more people with unemployment claims, we've had more money come in from unemployment. We've had to borrow money to pay for unemployment because from the federal government. We had a $1.1 billion in reserves that we've depleted, and now we're borrowing money again from the federal government to pay unemployment claims. That's a scary price. Something that's going to be paid down the road that we're going to be paying down the road. We also have money that we've been made aware of that we owe the federal government for money that was that Bobby Jindal's administration took out to pay for levee protection in southeast Louisiana, Orleans, Jefferson, Plaquemine, St. Bernard, St. Charles, all of those areas, these 7 parishes.
So Bobby Jindal's administration signed a loan.
They signed a loan
to the federal government
for 15 years to pay back that we owe in 2023.
And for how much money again?
It's a little over $1.1 billion, and that's just the principal.
So we got a deficit coming up of $1 billion. of where we were because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we borrowed more money for the federal government to repay that.
And we got more money we've had from unemployment.
And more money for unemployment. Meanwhile, the federal government's, I want to make that point.
The federal government is looking for their money. And they basically, the money that we owed them, and we owed another $600 million in interest. And with Steve Scalise and Garrett Graves and Cedric Richmond got together and negotiated a deal in December that we would pay back in 3 years. If we can pay back a little over it's like 1.15 billion with a B. In the next 3 years, we won't owe the interest. If not, we'll have to pay off $100 million a year for the next 30 years.
So pay now or pay a heck of a lot later.
It's like the old commercial with the mechanic where you can pay me now, you can pay me later.
So how much more will they have to pay later if they don't make that
almost $2 billion if we don't pay down the line. If we choose to go to 30-year, the interest goes back into play, and we'll owe almost $3 billion. So it's, to me, if you pay basically almost $400 million a year, and they basically we've given authority to sell the bonds to pay this off. And I think that it's going to be a fight because people in the northern part of the state, they look at it as, well, that's New Orleans, the New Orleans area's problem.
Right.
The problem is New Orleans is the economic driver, the metropolitan area is the economic driver for pretty much the entire state. And so it's a sell that we weren't all made aware of. They knew it was coming, but I wasn't made aware of it until in the last month.
That's right.
See, Coastal Protection brought me in. They said, Representative, we want to let you know what a big issue is going to be this year. I said, big issue? That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
It's not a big issue.
It's not like the federal government that prints the money and then taxes us more later for our children and grandchildren. It's a more immediate.
It's immediate because we went out 15 years ago. We kicked that can down the road, and now it's coming due. And now now it's up to us to make the tough decision on how do we handle it.
So money that was borrowed during the Jindal administration is now due $1.1 billion. We got to pay roughly $400
million.
$4 million this year.
$400 million next year. $400 in the third year in 2023.
And then it's paid off. Or the other option is don't make that first payment.
Get the interest payment.
And pay
but we still have to make a $100 million payment. But rather than $400 million, we're making $100 million and pay that off over 30 years.
With interest.
With interest. It's basically $3 billion. So to me, I'd rather get out from underneath the thumb of the government and give us the right in a few years to go ahead and free up so we can do other projects and continue moving this state in the right direction. Look, one of the big things that happened this past year is our children have pretty much been out of school for over a year. And how do you catch up? How do you make up for that difference? And that's scary because one of the big things in this state is education in the state. One of the big things that was passed last year was a rural broadband bill.
Right.
You've spoken with other people.
So people could have that more homeschool education.
Well, when you're doing virtual learning, what we take for granted down here is that I may switch my internet from Cox to AT&T, no big deal. They don't have the access. They don't have the opportunity in other parts of the state.
Right.
So you've got weaker, smaller areas. We can't be a stronger state if our entire state isn't up to par.
Right.
And I never realized that, where the rest of the state was until you start traveling this state more. Now, I'm a manufacturer's rep, and I do travel a little bit of state, but I went to places I never even knew existed in the last year. People that were affected by the storm, people that had, when we complained about power for being no power for a week, these people had no power for 5 weeks. Not a week, 5 weeks. They had no water. They weren't taking showers were a luxury. So you had pipes that had come out the ground because the trees were uprooted the whole water system in these smaller towns. It's not like Jefferson Parish where they can
send a crew out there overnight.
Out there in Fleming Construction and run out there and fix that. These people, it was slow. It was a slow process, and the transmission poles were tangled and bent. So you don't have. It's not like you run out in Home Depot and go grab a new transmission pole. This is stuff that had to be manufactured.
But still, in all this money that's got to be paid now for that first payment is also going to be something that's added on to what we're already short from not only last year. We're borrowing, and now you're talking about paying this $1 billion back. That was from the Jindal administration, but we're having to borrow another $1 billion for what happened during COVID.
Right.
So it's like you're basically starting to pay $1 billion off, but you're
taking money out of one pocket.
You're doing it for another $1 billion. So, and meanwhile, our state's already hurting with gas prices going up.
Gas prices are going up, and the federal administration that's in now has definitely hurt oil and gas in this state. We're so dependent on that industry. It's not like as much as people want to go into renewable power, it's not something that's an existing in this state. It's not a big driver in this state, and oil and gas, people are still going to use oil and gas.
We saw what happened in Texas.
We saw what happened there, and we will continue to move along and work hard with our people in oil and gas industry here in Louisiana, but the federal government is basically put the thumb down on oil and gas right now, which has hurt us. I mean, it hurts the consumer.
Yeah, with the Keystone Pipeline.
The Keystone Pipeline. I like being energy independent in this country, and it will drive the price because it's gonna reduce the supply in the market. So maybe I don't know if that'll be a good thing or not in this state going forward, because we always budgeted for our oil prices to be higher in our general budget.
Yeah.
So now we're almost artificially inflating that price because we're not using that Keystone Pipeline.
So
like
maybe it could help. Maybe it could help us out.
I don't know. I think it's going to take more time than just a month and a half of the Biden administration being in office, but.
Well, what concerns you most about our state?
Right now, our educational system. I really, truly worry about the kids in school right now. I worry if they're actually being taught. I worry about our kids in colleges in virtual classes. I have a son, and I know you have. I think you have college-age students also. Virtual classes. If college-age students can get distracted with virtual classes, I can't imagine what a third grader's doing.
Right.
So I know it's hard for them to stay focused and to get the experience that you do in a hands-on education. And I think it's been proven. Look, back last year in March, a year ago, we didn't know what we were dealing with, William. I think we understand, keep your sick and elderly away and continue to open our economy and get back to normal life. I think people have, there's been more hand sanitizer sold and masks, and I would have never thought we'd be in this situation where people fist bump rather than handshake. Yeah. But I do keep hand sanitizer with me all the time, and I shake hands, and then after I shake hands, it's nothing against you, but I use a lot of it.
I do the same thing.
I use a lot of it. Absolutely. But I am very much aware of what we're dealing with, and unfortunately, we lost a legislator, Reggie Bogler, who was a freshman like myself, represented Grand Isle. Reggie was one of the first people to contract it. COVID, and unfortunately perished from it. He was a year older than I was. He's a big guy like myself, and he would have been a great legislator. There was nobody more happy in the legislature to be elected than Reggie was.
So basically, when that happened, it hit home for the legislature,
for the
legislative family, and made y'all realize
it made it real. It definitely made it real, because most people are like, it's no big deal. It's like the flu. It will be all right. It was a tough situation to deal with. We had just gotten to know Reggie. Reggie's bill that he had filed was the LSU license plate bill, and his friend Representative Brian Fontenelle, Brian carried that bill for him. Because Reggie was such a big LSU fan and such a sports fan, and played football then in Lafourche, and losing Reggie was.
So as a result, you all had to learn how to navigate through.
We did have to worry about it. The procedures that are put in place at the Capitol, from mask wearing, and you've been up there a number of times, the temperature checks and everything we do, but we continue to operate. And if the legislature can continue to operate with older people in the legislature with a piece of plexiglass between our desks, I think we can operate our schools safely. I think we can make it fair, so the teachers are safe and the students are spread out, but we need to get those kids back in the classroom if they're not already. And I don't know how you make up for that lost year, because it's been a lost year, if not more. I mean, it's pretty much a year and a half, because you've lost spring last year, fall, and then spring again now. And there's kids in college right now that are taking 1 or 2 classes a week and sitting in their dorm room. So if you're a freshman away from home, sitting in your dorm room, I'll truly worry about the mental aspect of these kids with depression. I've talked to students at these schools, and they said, the freshmen are having a tough time. The older children who are old enough to get out and have been up there, I say children, young adults, that have been around and had the college experience over the last year, I think they've gotten to experience what life's about. Because you really, in college, you grow up and you learn how to become an adult. And they've had that opportunity. I don't think the younger kids, the freshmen, the sophomores, have kind of been cheated in that first couple of years, as well as the students.
And like you said, I mean, when you're a freshman, it's part of that camaraderie, that socializing that helps them be able to not miss home as much. And when they're stuck in a room on a Zoom class, they could be at home learning.
They're not home, or they're distracted. They learn a Zoom. They're in the class, but they're looking at their cell phone or doing other things.
Exactly.
I mean, look, it's easy to get distracted with these things these days, and with the social skills that you learn in class and being around other students is lost.
Right.
And to be able to have the social skills, you go to any restaurant today, you see most people sit down with a table of 4, and 4 people are looking at their cell phone. What do we go to lunch for? And I think our whole society has become detached and we've all suffered in learning how to converse with one another.
So this next session, you've got some legislation coming up. You want to talk to us about the bills that you've got? As they say, drop. I'm doing too many air quotes. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. This year, because it's a fiscal session, you're only allowed 5 non-fiscal bills. So I'm handling a bill for the Department of Insurance, which allows the Department of Insurance to enter into the healthcare marketplace. So basically, we would hopefully save 1 to 2% by allowing us to go into the marketplace to provide healthcare for people in the marketplace, in the federal marketplace right now. Mm-hmm. I also have a bill that.
So how does that work? Is it like the one they went like crossing state lines?
It's just for Louisiana.
Okay.
It's in Louisiana, our own marketplace, and we would handle it. The state would handle it. The Commissioner of Insurance would handle that.
So it's like a health insurance on a state level.
Yes.
Like
for the federal, if you were in the federal marketplace, you basically had Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and you're going through federal. The state is actually having their own marketplace where some of the fees and money that is paid to the federal program would actually stay home here, and it would hopefully save 1 to 2%, which is a lot of money when we're dealing with healthcare right now. I was asked to carry that by the Commissioner of Insurance. And so I've done that. And a lot of times you get asked from different agencies to carry a bill on their behalf.
Okay.
I'm also carrying a bill for the State Treasurer's Office, which is a treasury. It's a lending bill where the Treasurer's able to take some of our securities and loan that money at the Treasurer, invest money for the state so we can make more money, get more of a return on our money in the state. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, William. Okay, I have to call him back. Mike Hoss. And my third bill is a prepackaged liquor bill. So we could, right now, last year we had a delivery bill where you could have beer and wine delivered to your house over this, and now we'll be able to expand that a little bit more for a prepackaged like a Mike's Hard Lemonade would be able to be delivered to your house, because still with the pandemic, a lot of people like having delivery, and it gives our restaurants an ability to sell those and to help our restaurants out.
That's an interesting one. Like you said, that way, now in the days of people eating out less, and they want to order more, they would be able to order alcohol at the same time.
Right, and have it delivered. It's a trickier bill than you think, because I know you're going to have people. Do you have casual employees, 1099 employees delivering that stuff, or do you have somebody that's a full-time employee? You'll have issues like that come up with this bill of who's able to be able to deliver it.
Well, kind of no different than, say, a server that is not 18 years old has to take that state class to be able to hand the alcohol over. To handle it. No different than that. Maybe a driver has to do that, but if it gives businesses another way
to survive through this climate, because we have so many restaurants in this area. If you look at our community here in River Ridge and Harahan, there are many restaurants, and those are the economic drivers out here. You don't have a whole lot of industry. We don't have Elmwood in this district. We're more residential. Mm-hmm. We're more dry cleaners and investment.
Right. A few good restaurants.
You've got a number of good restaurants. There's a lot of good restaurants out here. You know, you can promote them all. I don't think you can go to all of them. You know, throughout this district, there's so many good ones, and you know, you like frequenting and spending your money as much as you can. Tyler,
well, I like talking. I want to go back to that number 2 bill that you had. That's an interesting one for me. Is the one that allows John Schroeder, the securities, allows him to loan money to businesses in Louisiana. Is that
banks, lending institutions? Yes. It's a big. You know, bills can, like we talked earlier, bills can be tweaked, but the Treasurer's Office has asked me to carry this, to bring this bill up, to give him more freedom, and they've done different things to save the state money. John is very big into doing what he can to get the most out of the money that the Treasurer's Office has.
Well, just like his unclaimed property,
correct? He was,
you know, allows that money to be invested now, you know, and so he's investing that unclaimed property money.
Well, it's not being spent because the governor wanted
the governor wanted to spend it in the general fund,
and it's not their
money.
It's like me finding
by the feds.
Well, it's like it's like me finding your wallet and saying, "Well, William hasn't been back to look for this. I'm going to spend it when he comes back.
I'll give it back to him.
We'll figure out a way to get his money back to him." I thought that was a no-brainer last year. That needed to be done with that unclaimed, because you realize. People don't realize how much money's out there. It could be something that the insurance company owes you for a rebate on something that you had paid years ago, but they lost contact with you. My own assistant got money back. She got almost $1,000 back for money that she found. I know
unclaimed property.
Louisiana unclaimed property is a big thing, and you've probably seen the commercials.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had him on my show before. We've talked about it. But the one thing I like about that fund is that fund is able to invest the money and give the interest to the state.
Yep.
So it saves the state taxpayers money, and that money is protected. Unlike the governor was going to spend the money and then it's gone. When
it's not gone, and then when somebody comes and says, "Well, I'm here to claim my unclaimed property," it's not there.
We'll write you an IOU note so we have a better year, right?
We'll get to you eventually.
But now this bill that takes the money that's in the Treasury, so now that might not be earned. He might be able to earn more interest at a banking institution.
Correct.
And there again, it's another way to save the state money
create more money, more revenue that the state would be making on the back end. And John's done a lot of programs like that. I mean, he's been a very good treasurer, and I appreciate the fact that he called on me. I look at it as an honor when the Department of Insurance or the treasurer calls and asks me to handle a bill, because they could choose any of 105 legislators, but they ask you to handle that bill, and I truly appreciate it that they think enough of me to do that. And look, I'm lucky enough to have learned from Senator Talbot, who's my office is next door to. I've learned a lot from Kirk in the last year. I mean, Kirk is on the Senate side. We've worked well together for this area. There's a lot of things. Kirk and I both serve on the district attorney's retirement system, and we go up every other month for meetings with the district attorneys. Mm-hmm. So we're both on retirement. We both get to drive up. It's a day together that we usually get to drive up together and talk about what's going on. Going on in the state, going on in our district. And Kirk's district is basically doubled. It went from Harahan, River Ridge, and a part of Metairie to the rest of Metairie, all the way to the lake out in Kenner. So Kirk's district, basically a senatorial district, is my precinct and Representative Debbie Villio's district. So he's got 2 House districts, is basically Kirk's district. So Kirk is, it's been a tough time. Kirk's a business owner right now, he with Lucky Dog, and he's in the food industry. He's in the food industry. He's trying to keep his business going. So man's working hard every day, like we all are, to make a buck, because we're part-time legislators. They say you're part-time, but you're...
it's a full-time job with part-time pay is what it is.
Part-time pay, correct.
But it's truly service. But hopefully in this next session, after coming out of this one blast year, going into a fiscal section, hopefully, the legislators will be able to come together and find some ways to navigate our state through this next year in such a way that, we don't get hit hard with the $1 billion loan that we got to pay out, or the $1 billion we got to borrow.
We've got good people. We've got some money in the rainy day fund that we're going to try and be very creative with the money that we have, and we're trying to get our projects, all the projects that we were hoping to do around the state. Is basically the chairman of Chairman Bishop is put out of Ways and Means is looking to do roads and bridges. He's looking to do real infrastructure projects, stuff that needed to be done. There may be storage, but it's always big projects that need to be done in your area. Not all the projects, but the most pressing ones. So we're taking our money this year and trying to make sure that the most pressing projects in your district are funded. And he's done that with everyone throughout the state, is trying to find out what project do you really need done.
Well, speaking of special projects, can I ask you one last question? For the River Ridge residents, about the Solvay Bridge. Speaking of roads and bridges, and
that's been a thorn in all our sides, because we all travel that way on a daily basis, and I'm sure the people that live between Citrus and Solvay will be happy when it's over, with so many people cutting through their neighborhoods trying to get around.
Where I live, I have a train to deal with, and I have a bridge, so sometimes that train's sitting there for a while, but
the train is a different issue. We've worked.
That's a federal issue.
It's a federal issue. We have made calls. I have had calls with Canadian National in the past, and I'll be happy to give you the 1-800 number if the train does come to a stop for too long. They have a 1-800 hotline. I've posted it previously on my page, but I know not everyone sees that or sees that from time to time, and I'll post that. But the train issue, what we've tried to do with them is to try not to have the trains crossing early in the morning when people are trying to get to work and get their kids to school, and in the afternoon when they're coming home from school.
Right.
But once 5:30 hits, I know 5:30 is a terrible time, because we do have Mays Yard right there, and in that yard,
right,
they build the trains. So when you see the trains come to a stop, it's because the trains they'll back up. They're literally building the train there. It's not just they stop to come in, they take some cars off, they maneuver it. It's basically a processing center that takes.
So what's the update on the Solvay Bridge?
The bridge right now is, you're looking at probably the beginning of May. It was supposed to, 2 weeks ago, it was the middle of April, but there's a delay, of a steel delay there. And the way it works, unfortunately, after talking to the director of DOTD, he said we cannot, when the project stopped due to an accident on the project, they had a concrete piling that had broken. The clock basically stops on that project while the piling is being remanufactured. So they had to put a new piling in. They've had other issues with relocating utilities underneath in that project. So the clock stopped during that time. Then the clock stopped when the piling crew got COVID. So that was another week. So it's like 5 weeks behind. And now there's a delay in getting steel for the project, which makes me extremely unhappy, but there's not much. After talking to the director, he said there's not much they can do because they can't get the material to do the project. Now, to me, that material should have been ordered. Only thing I could guess is that the steel, it wasn't ordered until they had time. People try and float their money from time to time in their business, and it wasn't ordered until he was ready.
And they're not dealing with a public. This is a private company that they're dealing with.
It's a private company.
It's a low bid.
It's a low bid process, and if they were to force them to work overtime or work weekends, the state has to come up with additional funding to pay those guys to do that. Because the clock was stopped, they're back in. The date has been backed up because when they have unforeseen delays, the clock basically stops on them, and that's what I was told by DOTD. I've talked to them so many times that I know they're tired of talking to me. I just want more done to complete this project.
So you're rattling some chains.
Rattling a lot of chains. Yeah. I've called more people. I'm trying to find out the right button to push, because the buttons I push, I get responses, but it's not the response any of us want to hear.
Yeah.
I got one more big.
We got
other issues.
Yeah,
this year is going to be a redistricting year, and so
that is a big issue.
That is a big issue. Yeah. You asked me about the bigger issues. The budget's big, but redistricting is going to be big. And the way redistricting takes part is you do it by population, by your census. So every 10 years they redistrict and they redraw the districts. Now Jefferson Parish will pretty much stay the same, because you haven't had a whole lot of population shift. The population in Jefferson Parish is still pretty much the same. We've had a little growth, not great growth, but a little growth. Yeah. And it's based off of, I want to say it's 46,000 per house district. So you're looking at 46,000 people, and you got to draw your precincts by your precincts and get to 46. But you've got to do that through the entire state. Up in the northwestern part of our state, there's been a population shift to the southern part. So you will have districts redrawn, and the way districts are drawn are from the from the outside part of the state to the middle. So you'll have different shaped districts, and you'll have, hopefully it won't be contentious, because we're trying to go about, everybody's been given their plan, everybody's trying to work out what they want in the areas that they would like, but you're going to have some different, and not only that, but you're drawing congressional districts, you're growing senatorial districts, all of that's in the Bessie districts, all of that's being redrawn.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to have, it's a huge undertaking. I know we'll have a special session. We've already been told at the end of the year, like January and February, you will be dealing with that. We do have a lot, and the chairman of our House and Governmental, John Stefanski, has replaced Stephen Dwight. He'll be dealing with that, and John, I think, is very well prepared for this battle.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge undertaking. They're trying to prepare. They're doing a lot of work and trying to prepare for this, because it is something you deal with every 10 years, and everybody wants to protect their area, but everybody
protect their little. Well,
you do, but some things you can't handle. As the population shifts, you've got to adjust your map accordingly.
Right.
And you've got to be able to provide these maps, and you have oversight of the courts that'll have to oversight if any of these maps are challenged. And it could be, and unfortunately, you probably will get contentious somewhere down the line with this. But
I've already spoken to some legislators that think that they might be getting
drawn out their district.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can understand they'd be nervous about it. It's happened in the past, and you redraw where the population shifts to. I would expect that New Orleans Parish would probably look to gain a little bit, because they've added a little population. We've added a little also. St. Tammany's added a bunch, so you may see some shift over to the North Shore. The whole North Shore has definitely grown.
Have another legislator up there.
East Baton Rouge has continued to grow.
So as the state population grows, we would have more legislators?
You won't have more legislators. You're always going to be locked in at 105.
So it's always locked in at 105?
Always locked
they
in
just
105.
divide that
They divide
population
it up by the population with population. So I want to say we're about 4.5 million. You divide it up equally of the 4.5 million, so you're right around 46,000.
Okay.
I want to say we're at 4.6 million in population. We were hoping to. It looks like we'll continue. One of the big problems we had last year is census. We still lag every 10 years in filling out the census.
Yeah.
And our district was one of the better districts in filling it out, but we promoted it. I mean, we were promoting it. I promoted it. I went to council meetings.
Wow.
We went out there and promoted it to tell people, fill it out. People, fill out your census.
I always tell people in the videos.
Fill out your census. It's important, because the funding for your district is based off of any type of federal funding, and state funding is off of the population that you have. The money goes where the people are.
Right.
So, it's important that people, we don't always look at it, but that's
so if not enough people fill out a census in their little area might not get the money that it needs.
Correct. You didn't have the census. You didn't have the census takers going door to door this year like they normally do. They tried to do a little bit of it, but you didn't have them out going door to door for people that didn't fill it out.
Right.
It's almost like guesswork. Like, okay,
I filled it out, and they still came to my door.
It still came to your door. And that's good. I'm glad. I think our area, but there were other districts that had 15% reply rate. We were close to in the 70s, so we were one of the better ones. But it could have been better. I want 100%. I want everybody to fill it out. But as your community ages, people aren't going online to do that. So people who aren't familiar with online process, you got to fill out. They send out the paper. It's a huge undertaking to count everybody in this country and try and get it as close as possible. Is a huge undertaking. The money needs to go. The population in our state has basically been flat for years. I would love for the population to be 5-6 million and possibly pick up a congressional seat or two.
Yeah.
Because that's important. We're still stuck. Hopefully we won't lose any congressional seats, but you'll have to wait and see what happens.
When they finally count the numbers.
They finally count all the numbers, and hopefully it won't be counted in Pennsylvania or Georgia.
That's a good one. I like that nugget. Well, that's the truth. I mean, and that's why it's so important, because we're going to lose. If we lose more population like we're currently losing, we'll lose more
representation. We'll lose representation, and we're always guaranteed 2 senators. We're not guaranteed as many congressmen as we'd like.
We what Delaware that has 2, I think.
Right now we have 2 open seats. Cedric Richmond's not there, and Luke Letlow passed. So hopefully after the 20th of March, we'll at least have one in there. But you may have a runoff. It may not be till April till two of our Congress people are.
And without the representation, we're not getting the money. And at a time that our state really is hurting for money, keep that. The census is already over, but
right.
For a future like that. Well, John, do you have anything else that you want to add? I mean, that was a good with the district thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
I brought it up. I mean, it's something it will be a hot topic up there this year. The budget's always hot. I mean, about trying to find ways to pay for this. We have good people we're working with up there. The fiscal division does a thankless job sitting there and getting all the numbers together for us. I'm on appropriations, so you deal with this. It's one of the money committees. They go up there and learn where the money goes. We just got the governor's budget last week. We were up there for JLCB, and so you kind of know what's in store, what they're asking for. Now we get to vet all these different agencies that come in front of us and see where the money goes, and it's work. I mean, it is true homework where you sit there in the morning and you go and vet all these different agencies. And you find out where all the money's spent in this state and where it goes. So, we toss around the term millions, like me and you may toss around the term dollars.
Yeah.
It's only $2. It's not $2.
Yeah, it's only $2 million. Yeah.
It's only $2. To me,
it's only $1 billion that we owe the state.
It's only $1 billion that we're going to be short.
I mean, we're write a check for $400 million.
I think once you hit $1 billion, everybody gets nervous. That gets everybody's attention. I was fortunate enough yesterday to see where a lot of the coastal restoration money goes to. I got to take a little ride out and to go see one of the diversion projects in the state. I didn't get to make it out to Mystico, but I did go to Davis Pond, which is right across the river from us in St. Charles Parish. I got to see the land that was built over the last decade. You've had over 500 acres of land built through this little small diversion project. Wow. And we have other diversion projects coming up around through the river to try and rebuild our delta and our coastline. So it's stuff that people are passionate about, but we all need to be passionate about, because without rebuilding our coastline, who knows? We may be on beachfront. We may be coastal property.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We might right here in Jefferson Parish be the beach.
Jefferson Parish may be Grand Isle, and we all don't want that, because it affects us economically to keep our coastline where it is, to help us during storm season. And there's so many people working together for this project, and we understand the risk of that going forward. You have a lot of issues coming up this past year. It is only a 60-day session because it's fiscal, so from April 12th to June 10th, it will be fast and furious, and I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of time off. Especially being a fiscal year and the things we have to deal with. We'll know more in the next couple of weeks of where we're at as we have these hearings. So if you want to come up during the middle of the session,
I absolutely will,
and talk to us. Maybe I can set up a meeting with the chairman of appropriations and maybe some of the other chairmen that are involved in the money committees, and they will have a better handle on where we're going to be. Going forward, where we're going to be, what the outlook is for the state, but we're realistic about what needs to be done, and we don't want to kick the can down the road any longer in Louisiana. We want to see the people up there that are in the freshman class, I truly believe, are in it for the right reasons. A lot of the legislators, like myself, have sons and daughters that are in high school, of college age, and they're in it for the right reason. They want to see our children continue.
Yeah, it sounds like this next session is a real turning point for Louisiana. That it's gonna that with all the fiscal issues going on right now, and the $1 billion to be paid, and determine whether it's to be paid over the next 3 years, over the next 10 years, and
there's gonna be some tough meetings. It's gonna be very tough meetings.
Having to borrow some more money from the feds. This is gonna be a time where we're either gonna start being able to grow our state population back, or we're gonna start chasing people away, because if they see the writing on the wall that their taxes are going to go up, they might go next door in one of the states that don't have any taxes.
They're going to move to Texas, and we're trying to stop that flow. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, people moving to other states, but we really need to get our economy back open. Unfortunately, New Orleans doing their thing affects all of us in the metropolitan area. And people say, why you take such an interest in New Orleans, is because when we go out of town, we tell people we're from New Orleans.
Right.
You know, as much as we love our community of Harahan, River Ridge, and Metairie, you go out of town, you say, I'm from the New Orleans area.
If I say from River Ridge, you go, where's that?
Where's that?
You know?
And they do.
Yeah.
So economically, it affects all of us. And the fact that those businesses that are open, those businesses that are closed, those businesses that are suffering, to be only partially open, our economy is so tourism based. The fact that we haven't had people in for conventions and coming to our restaurants and coming to celebrate here. I want to open safely, but I think we need to start looking to open. Jefferson Parish is a true example of what we've dealt with. They're open. I think once the vaccine gets more and more out,
be full steam ahead.
I think everybody's cautious. I think people are very cautious, and you should be. If you're nervous about your health, I think you should be. You should be worried and take the precautions you need to. I know I do.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wear my mask. People say I don't like wearing masks, and that's my thing is, if you smoke and you come into my house and I don't smoke, would you come in my house and smoke a cigarette? You
No.
probably wouldn't, because it's my house.
Exactly right.
So if a supermarket says I want you to wear a mask, you're in his supermarket.
Well, I always say I prefer a mask suggestion than a mask mandate.
Oh, I agree.
So like if a business wants to have it, they can have it. If they don't want to have it, they don't have to have it. And you let the people choose whether they want to wear it or not wear it. But
I agree. I agree. Look, I coach baseball. I coach youth baseball. I'm at the ballparks every weekend. Most of the people out there keep their distance, but they're not wearing masks.
Yeah.
I'm around the kids. They don't.
They're outside where the sun's killing it.
They're outside. We're still learning about it. I mean, there's a lot we have to learn about. It's changed all of our lives.
Right.
There's a lot we have to learn about COVID, and we're still learning about it. Even the vaccine, we're learning how long is the vaccine good for?
Yeah.
I took the vaccine. I asked them. They go, it could be 6 months. Okay, could be.
But one thing
I've had COVID. I think did you say you had it also?
Yeah, had it.
I've had it back last August. People go, oh, good, you've had it. You're immune. I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, what am I immune for? 60 days?
Are you immune to the
days?
other new strains that are coming?
A year.
But one thing that we've learned about COVID is that it's going to cost the state a whole lot of money.
Yes.
And I'm hoping
it's cost us economically. It's cost this entire country. And the thing is, you can't be just a state thing. This entire country went through it.
Yeah.
The entire world went through it. So it's not, keeping businesses shut. I think we've done a good job of trying to get some of our businesses open. And I think the state has done a decent job of trying to protect us. I know some people are a little further than I want with the protection, but it's also, I get it. Nobody wants to lose a family member, but I don't want to lose somebody's business either. That's what I tell people. I said the damage done economically and mentally to a lot of the families has been, I don't know if you can undo that. I mean, somebody that loses their business or can't make a tuition payment to pay for their kids to go to high school or grammar school. It's tough to deal with that. You feel for people. The mental aspect, the people. One of the things that went up, you're talking fiscally, one of the things that went up with alcohol sales in the state. That scares me.
Yeah.
Because it means people have turned to drinking to numb the pain, and where does that lead us down the road? So
the state makes money off the taxes on that.
We do make money on taxes, so I thought we have, and that's why it hasn't been as bad as two things went up: video poker and alcohol sales. And video poker's up, and it's you're dealing with less machines. So what do people do? People turn to vices in times like this, and I worry about people dealing with that. Like they look as an escape, and you should be worried about things like that. You should be worried about your fellow neighbor. You don't know what's going on in everybody's house.
Right.
Did he lose his house? Well, why did he do that? He did that because he didn't have anything. If you're relying on unemployment to make it, that's a scary proposition because you're not getting a whole lot here, and you're looking for your job to come back that may never come back.
Right.
So people having to readjust their life, in their 40s and 50s, and look for a new. I can understand why people lose hope. And I want to make people as hopeful, but after a year, I think people have. It's been a year.
So people are ready to turn it around, and I
they want to open back up.
And I'm looking forward to the legislators this year to be able to do that. And it sounds to me like you've got some ideas that are going to help do that, and working with the other legislators, like their family, is also going to help bring back some of what we've lost.
It's a lot of people. We not only COVID, but you dealt with 7 storms that we had last year.
That's right.
You think we have COVID fatigue here?
We didn't have a double whammy. We had
we had a storm. We had people along the western part of the state, all the way up to Shreveport, that had pipes. They had no water up to a couple of weeks ago. They had no water. We sent a truck. So myself and Representative Boyer and a couple other representatives, we got together in our communities and had water trucked up there, bottled water, just so they could have drinking water. And the guys around the state, that's what I like about the legislature so much, is the people around the state in all their different areas, we all got together and we made sure that water got there. I made 2 phone calls, one guy who's a water distributor and one guy who had a trucking company, and got 2 people to go pick the water up and deliver it, and didn't realize that there's other people along the way that needed it. But we stepped up, and the people around the state, we're a great state about wanting to help other people. We rushed to go help people.
We're the home of the Cajun Navy.
We are. And the Cajun Navy was part of the group that got some of the water to these people. But Representative Boyer and myself got together on a phone call on a Saturday afternoon, and by Monday we had trucks of water heading up there because we had an idea. We said, what can we do? Let's bring them food. I said, man, we need water. I talked to Representative Thomas Presley up there. He said, we need water. And I got to think, from the other day, he said, you don't realize how little of things of water when you find out we don't have water because their pipes busted. And these people dealt with storm and now dealt with wintertime. And you think they wanted 2020 to go away? We were lucky.
Yeah.
We missed out for a couple of days, with power and no cable. I had people calling me, my cable's out. I get it. My cable was out too. My power was out. And we were lucky the weather was nice enough down here when it hit. We could have been in it Lake Charles and the thing is, everybody says Lake Charles, and people don't realize the other little communities along the way, Grant Parish, places like that their pipes came out the ground.
Right.
They were waiting for pipes. They were 5-6 weeks, no power, no water.
Wow.
Having water trucks coming in.
Well, as many resources that we have in Louisiana of the good people of helping each other. And let's just hope that this next year we can get through it, and at this next legislative session, they're going to figure out how to do it fiscally.
I think we're very prepared about it. We're actually going up tomorrow for a Republican, basically a little retreat policy seminar amongst the Republican Party. It's joint between the House and the Senate. We get together, get our game plan together. I'm sure the people on the other side of the aisle are doing the same thing. You're game planning for the important issues for your community. I still believe we are all unified in early childhood education, and how much talking to my fellow legislators on the other side of the aisle. We're getting together next week. It's going to be joint Republican and Democrat to get together in the metropolitan area to discuss our plans to go forward with early childhood, because it's so important to start
early childhood is important.
Start our kids ahead, and we're going to continue to invest in our technical colleges, our Delgado and places like that, to educate our workforce for children for young adults that aren't going to a 4-year college, and get them in to get our skilled workforce, because we continue to need to work on that. And Dr. Monty Sullivan is doing a great job with that system. And we're worried about our 4-year colleges, about them being able to continue to exist, because when people are taking virtual classes, a lot of parents are saying, why am I paying this tuition?
Right.
I could send my kid to the University of Phoenix.
Exactly, and not have to do that.
And do it online, and it's a lot cheaper. So if they're not getting the full college experience, there's a big press from us to make sure that LSU and UNO and all these state universities are back where the kids are being taught in person.
Get them opened up.
And the smaller classes are in person, and I think we need to have that. We've spent enough money and got enough federal dollars to make sure that the teachers are protected and the students are protected, but they need to be in person. That social aspect cannot go on any further, because we're losing too much with those children. And look, William, it's been almost an hour.
Yep.
If anybody's going to watch this for an hour, you are a trooper. And
well, this video will actually be podcasted also. So people, the videos on William Wallace for America on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. People can go to they go on iHeart, iTunes, Apple, Stitcher podcast, and they can listen to it. And generally what I find when people see the long ones, they'll either watch it all at once, or they'll watch part of it, or they'll listen to the podcast. But John, I want to thank you very much
always
for all
a
your
pleasure,
time.
Man.
Appreciate
I've definitely enjoyed our conversation.
I have some hand sanitizer. We just shook
hands.
We'll put some hand sanitizer on. Everybody, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Share the video, share the podcast, and I appreciate you. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, William.